All right, welcome everyone. Hope you're having a awesome Friday and a great week so far. I want to thank you to our first ever presentation from our new chapter, the Aem Engineering Enablement User Group. I know that's a quite the long-winded title, but this is a group formed by Nicholas and I and Brett, who's on our team. It's a development, we're part of the development team focused on helping enable other users and developers, IT professionals, and all different types of subjects around AEM engineering. This first session is kind of a intro, kind of baseline presentation on the setup and integration commerce in AEM. And that's by myself and Nicholas Chipping. And we'll move on to the next slide here. Let's go over kind of what we're going to go over today. Well, kind of give you an introduction to who we are at Bounteous and who we are as a team. About a little bit about Nicholas and I. What exactly is commerce in AEM? And this is for some folks who are not as exposed to commerce in AEM in general, but just have a baseline knowledge about it. And then we're going to be doing a demo on how to actually integrate commerce with AEM and a little bit of technical discussion. We welcome any comments, questions, kind of invite two-way conversation during this presentation. So don't feel bad if you want to raise your hand or ask a question between while we're working on something. We'll also have a Q&A after to kind of go over any questions we can help answer. We've got some cool resources, tips and tricks, things that we've learned along the way to kind of help anyone who may have any questions. And then I highly encourage anyone here, if you're a customer or if you're an individual or developer that has something that they've done in the past, we really want to make this kind of a collaborative presentation, not just us kind of talking at you, and kind of show off things that maybe you've learned or maybe something that you might be valuable to others on the call. So we highly recommend kind of a collaborative effort during these presentations. I like to think myself as a pretty personal person, and I would love to meet all of you. So, feel free to show some things off. We would love to hear from you. So just kind of start out, Bounteous as a company, we were founded in 2003 in Chicago. We're a leading digital experience consultancy that co-innovates with the world's most ambitious brands to create transformative digital experiences. Services and strategy and insights, experience design, technology, analytics, and marketing. Bounteous elevates brand experiences and drives superior client outcomes. So that's a little bit about us as a company. And myself, my name is Christopher Sands. My pronouns are he, him. I'm located just north of Detroit, Michigan in Royal Oak. I'm the team coordinator, team lead, and a senior front-end developer. I've been with Bounteous around 8 years or so, seen a lot of different platforms. I've laid hands on many different content management systems. It's kind of my passion, working for the user and working for authors. So it's very nice to meet you all. And next we have my good friend, Nicholas.
Hi, everyone. Yep, I'm Nicholas Chipping. I've been working at Bounteous for a little over 3.5 years. I got into technology because I just kind of fell into it. It worked out that way, and it's been a fun engagement ever since. So a lot of learning, and so far my favorite thing about it is just that you never know all the answers. So that's why this group is a really good platform for all of us to engage together. I don't think I said this, but I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. So we get plenty of snow in the winter. Just now it's more in the mountains, if you missed that conversation earlier. But anyway, that's me.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Nicholas. Yeah. And kind of the mindset that Nicholas and I had in starting this group is we are very collaborative people, and we love to help, and we love to see other developers grow. And that's kind of where the title of this group came from. So I think we're all in it together, and we're all learning lots about AEM, and as things progress and evolve over time, kind of collaborating with each other and keeping the community growing. So it's very nice to meet you all, and maybe we'll do a little bit of chit chat after the presentation to get to know some of you folks. All right, so let me get on to what actually is commerce in AEM. An integration of tool sets that enable site owners to update content, product information in tandem, while keeping a cohesive experience across marketing and product sets. And this is a little bit of an explanation on what actually is commerce within AEM. So the AEM Commerce Integration Framework, or CIF, Commerce and managing multiple ecosystems, sites, marketing journeys, applications like single page apps can be extremely challenging. Adobe makes this a breeze with Commerce, previously known as Magento, and a little thing called GraphQL. Don't worry, other platforms are possible beyond Magento or Adobe Commerce. GraphQL is a querying language for APIs, which in layman's terms is a universal language to talk to and retrieve all of your valuable data in a secure, fast, and user-friendly way. And I can show that off for you in a little bit. And the Aem SIF framework and its components utilize GraphQL to retrieve and display all sorts of product category and card information and more. The beauty is that this data utilized by SIF can be used on all sorts of web experiences across different journeys. In this instance, Adobe SIF components utilize React to turn your data or products, GraphQL from Adobe Commerce into Aem components. And from my perspective as a front-end developer, there's some good things to know, and especially with past Aem experience. Similar to the Wickham components that we use in Aem, we have Commerce components that greatly enrich the user experience while shopping. These SIF components are built on an open source JavaScript framework library created by Facebook. You may have heard of this before, called React. It's an excellent tool for building and maintaining user interfaces through a library of components. And the use of React components can help keep a consistent and fluid user experience, but also save time and effort for your developers. Which is great on Adobe's part. There are quite a few out-of-the-box components that are available to get you started with Commerce. That includes things like product teasers, carousels, product collections, and related products. There's a mini cart, there's an account details component, address book for updating and maintaining the address book through Commerce, featured categories, category carousels, and there's plenty more. And I also have some resources to kind of show those off to you at the end of the presentation so you can take a look around yourself. And I mentioned GraphQL. So an example I have over here is a structure, an example structure that we've had, I've had on past clients of what some of those queries look like in GraphQL, the type of data that you can pull out from Commerce. So right here, I have an example query for the details of a cart, as well as the order history from a client. So looking at the structure, you've got your customer orders, the amount of the items that are in that cart, the order number. So just kind of give you an example of some of the information we can actually retrieve using GraphQL. And then we also have some integration points. This kind of starts leading into the kind of the back end of things. Digging into the back end integration of Commerce and Aem can be complex to developers, but it's usually totally invisible to the end user by the time it gets to us as the front end. So through the SIF connector, we've got GraphQL queries and Commerce models that are managed there, as well as OSGI configurations for both the front end and back end, and network configurations. And Nicholas, you want me to hand that off to you?
Yeah, if you can go to the next slide, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, so where do we start with integrations? Oh, sorry. There's a difference between some integrations for if we're using Aem as cloud service versus Aem classic. So think 6.5, 6.4, etc. And we're going to have this conversation based on the assumption that we already have a Commerce environment set up and configured. So we're not really going into that part today. But for our purposes, we're going to be using the Adobe Commerce platform. So Chris, let's go to the next one. So this is a picture that we've taken from Cloud Manager. And basically, if you're going to be using Aem as a cloud service, you have to have this add-on enabled in order to use it. So that's something that your client service person at Adobe can help enable. If you're using Aem Classic, then it's through a package that you can install. Also, if you are using Aem as a cloud service locally, then you're going to also install a package. It's an author or publish var, depending on what instance you're going for. So if it's an author instance, you install the author.var and so forth. So let's go forward. Okay, so where is Commerce located in Aem? If the add-on was installed, or if you went and, add-on was enabled in cloud service, or if you installed it on a local instance or in a classic AEM instance, then you should see the commerce area in that main navigation section. So as soon as you click on the compass, you should see commerce in there. And then once you click into the commerce area, you should see a folder or multiple folders, depending on how many commerce configurations you have set up for different endpoints and that sort of thing. So we'll get more into that when we get to the demo. So another thing just to mention, you will need to have a bunch of different POM dependencies. Most of this is all already set up and defined if you're using the out of the box AEM project archetype from Adobe. So this is actually a screenshot of their POM file, but just so that you can see, you'll need the connector, all the components, apps, config, and core, the CIF SDK, SPI, API. I don't know what an SPI is. And then the GraphQL client. So there's two implementations that I want to at least just mention before we go to the demo. So for a standard implementation, most of the time it's going to be fairly straightforward. Basically, you'll have some POM updates that you'll want to put in, like what we just were looking at. You'll have your OSGI configurations that you'll need to make, and then different network configurations. So some things for allowing your dispatcher to make the right calls, basically. So let's move forward to the custom implementation. Basically, if you need customizations, then you are opening a big box, which can be a lot of fun, but it definitely adds complexity. So you get into where you might need to customize the React components or add to GraphQL queries, changing dialog fields, different models for products or product lists. You might have to add your own event listeners or rely on local storage, and then add additional OSGI configurations. And then furthermore, if this is all just if it's a completely headless site, whereas if it's a semi-headless architecture, such as you have AEM here and it serves most of your pages, but then if a customer clicks on the cart and that takes them, let's say, for example, to the Magento site for checking out, then you have to worry about things like cart state, cart refreshing, and reverse proxying to make sure that everything lives on the same URLs and that both systems are talking and sharing the information that needs to be shared. So it can be interesting. All right, let's jump forward. Okay, it's demo time. So let me share my screen real quick.
Before we jump into demo, do we want to see if anybody has any questions on any of the stuff that we just went through, and anything we can talk to before we hit demo, or even make sure that we hit in the demo?
Good idea. Any questions?
I also called you out for using the M word.
We'll also take Zoom reactions at laughing at us or smiling as a good reaction.
Yeah, all reactions are good. All right, we'll jump in. Naughty M word. I don't know what M word I used, Brett.
Magento no longer exists.
It's commerce, I know. Sorry. Okay, Magento is not real. Let's see. So I'm just going to share my screen and we'll jump into this. Let's make sure that we have the right stuff. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be running through in the demo today. Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So let's get going from the start. So very first, you'll want to have the Vanilla project cloned. If you don't already, that is right here. And we have some links toward the end of the presentation that we'll share with everyone. But the Vanilla guide project is a really quick way to get up and running, and then something that's really good to reference, so that if when you're creating your own, if you're running into something and you're not sure why it's not working, you can always refer back to this one and compare the different instances and what is set up in these configurations versus yours. So just as a starting point, I wanted to mention that because it can be a really helpful reference. So I'll just put multiple stars by that because it's important. So next, we get to start a brand new AEM instance. So I know this is not necessarily what we all like to do with our time, but I want to just make sure that we're going from the bare bones to show kind of how these things work. So I have a recent jar that I've downloaded for AEM as a cloud service. If we go ahead and get that going, just going to give it some juice to run. Okay. So while that's starting up, I will just mention that we have something else in that folder that you might have noticed. This CIF stuff, the author far and publish far. You can get that by going to the download area in Adobe's service area. So let's go there real quick. I just want to show where you can find that. So if we go to AEM as cloud service, then this CIF add-on is what you'll need to download. And when you download it and you unpack it, it looks like this. So you'll have those 3 files. Just wanted to show that since we have a minute while AEM is starting up. And while it's starting up as well, let's fail the logs so that we can see what's happening. Going down here. Okay. So basically these FAR files will enable the Commerce plugins and everything to work properly. You'll be missing quite a bit if you don't have them. So it's definitely a must-have for this to work. We could even open the README. Install the file in the corresponding AEM instance alongside the README. It's very detailed. So we should have our instance up in just a minute here. And while that's going on, just so that you can see, our next step is we're going to validate that this is just a fresh instance to, again, peace of mind, make sure that we're following the steps properly. And then we're going to add the CIF add-on, and we can watch the logs while that's going on to see kind of what happens in the background while we're doing that. So we should be getting pretty close on this new instance. Getting there. Should have found a cat gif or waiting or something.
We need elevator music.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. It's coming up. So I set my admin password, username. So I'll just use admin because that's what I gave it. We're almost there. Okay. So just as a validation, again, follow these steps. I want to make sure that we don't have anything else installed. So this is all just the default stuff. If I look for Commerce, I don't have anything If I look for specify, but that's not SIF really related. So now we can go ahead and do step 3. So if we open our folder structure, we've got the README here. This is our quick start. So I'm just going to copy this author var. So copy. And then in here, I'm going to say install. Then I'm going to paste that. So now you can see it started, it registered the Commerce add-on service. So that, and now that bundle has started, so we should be good. And if we reload in here, we can see the Commerce add-on. So yay, step 3 is happy. That was a quick one. So now we get to build and deploy Vanilla. So I usually just run this without tests when I'm going ahead and doing a demo. If you're not doing a demo and you're actually developing things, don't do that because it's not good practice. You should make sure your tests are actually running. And just to show get remote. So this is the SIF guide Vanilla, just so that everyone is aware. And we are on the main branch. So I'm going to go ahead and build that, which will take about a minute. So cue the elevator music, Chris. Go.
Sorry, I can't do it. Does anyone have any questions or any comments so far? Or is this new to anyone? Or is this kind of old news for anyone? Or is anything especially helpful?
It's definitely helpful.
Cool.
Awesome.
Good to hear.
Yeah, and for future topics, we'll be sending out a survey after the meeting and hopefully get some good ideas from what everyone here would like to see and some longer kind of technical dives into some more advanced subjects. We have a couple that are on our docket so far, but when we're wrapped up here, we'd love to hear if you have any ideas of things that you'd like to see or things that you maybe need a little more information on. So that's something we can definitely help with as part of this this new chapter. So.
Okay, so while this one is running, I do want to show another piece. So if you're doing a default installation, I do have this noted. We're cloning from Vanilla for this just to make things run a little smoother. If you're starting from a brand new AEM project archetype, you do have to say include Commerce yes as an option and that it's a cloud version. But one thing to note is that you might not have all the configs out of the box. They do have most configurations ready, but one thing that you'll want to look out for is these two configurations, the proxy servlet and the client impl. So if we go to proxy, have to reload, sorry. GraphQL Proxy. Where is it? That's strange. The client is there. That's not the factory. Oh, I'm in bundles. You should be in the right place because that usually helps. So don't do this in bundles, do it in configurations where you should actually be. That's a good foobar. All right. I like to call this config mugger because I never forget it for anyone who wants silly things in their head. So GraphQL proxy is right here. So for this, my local Magento instance that I'm running is, I just have it routed to MDS. So I'm just going to grab that and put in /GraphQL for my proxy configuration. And basically what this allows is on the front end on a page, your AEM instance is by default set up with CIF to hit localhost /API/GraphQL and then send along the information. So when that happens, what this proxy configuration does is it takes it and then in the back end, it actually proxies and sends that request to the URL that you're putting in here. So kind of an important piece when you're developing locally. Once you're up in an environment with a dispatcher, just so everyone's aware, that has been deprecated and it will by default use the client default here. So whatever you set this client default to, that's what it will use instead. So I'll just put it here as well. And then also, since we're doing local development, I'm going to accept self-signed certificates. And I also am going to say for default HTTP header, user agent is AEM. And if you'll notice, I'm going to go back down to that configuration really quick. We also have a vanilla configuration that was put in by the vanilla code base. So when we built that and now that's all successful and happy, that came up here. So it uses most of the same stuff, but it has some of its own caching rules. So again, look to vanilla as an example of what to do. If you're ever having troubles with getting your own code base working, a good thing to do is to run one instance with vanilla and run one instance with your code. And then you can compare configurations in real time and test out different things. And always you can compare code bases too. So now that we have that, oh shoot, I didn't want to do that. Too late. Okay, I was gonna show that if we go here to the base of the site, if we go to commerce, when you don't have it properly configured, this will show an error. So actually, let's make that happen because the vanilla one is pointing to default. And this is the default. So I'm gonna change this to test me.
Test that hot dog.
Oh, there you go. It will definitely fail. Well, I don't know that for sure. I've never actually tried to go to that website, but I'm pretty sure it will fail. So if we open up the network and watch this as we look for GraphQL calls, we reload the page. Oh shoot, that's cached. We can change the configuration or pretend to force it. I would like to fill that out, but it's not showing. Okay, well, for reference, I guess I'll just leave it as it is. I'll change this one back to MDS for now. Or actually, no, it'll fail as I go into the next area. It would if it wasn't doing the proper stuff. I guess it's not using our hot dog stuff, Chris. Maybe it already put that into the vanilla configuration. It's using the other one, but the main point of it is just that if you don't have this configured properly, you won't be able to see these folders. You won't be able to go into them and see the different products. So this is real-time pulling information from that Magento, or sorry, Commerce instance. So the nice thing with that, obviously, is that once you go to sites, then you can actually start adding products and putting things together on your pages. So because this is the first time it's gonna show me this and I don't want it to. So let's go to the home page. And we can also go and look at a product page as an example. Apologies for the load times. I don't know what's going on with this. It's all
No,
local.
that's all right. Does anybody have any questions so far, or any comments? All right.
Taking a while. Okay, here we go. Sometimes the instances are super fast and sometimes they're not. All right, so obviously for your homepage, you can kind of put whatever you want to here. And then once you go to a product page, the way that SIF, the URL structure is by default set up is you'll have product page.html slash whatever your product name is .html. So if we go back here and we go and look at our configuration in Commerce, and let's look for a product just as an example. So the abominable hoodie. So then these are all the variations. I believe if no. Yeah, let's just grab that so I don't mess up spelling. So if we do this in view as published, we should be able to say that. Nope. I wonder if that's because of our hot dog configuration. Let me grab the real one, put it in here. Still giving us problems. Interesting. Usually these product pages work out of the box. Okay, now it wants to. Let's just take it here. That's it. Okay. Maybe it's the SKU. Let's try that instead. I know you can configure it a little differently. The URL structure might be. Okay. Well, I'm not doing us any favors by messing around with that. So instead, we can break inheritance here and we'll just configure this to a single product, or yeah, because we can all see it says without a manual selection, it will display a product based on the URL selector. And the URL selector should be the product name or the SKU. but both of those didn't work.
Try page.mh09.html. That would be the selector.
What was the other thing that we tried?
Abominable hoodie. Like Nicholas said, there's actually multiple ways you can
There we
configure
go.
this. Yep.
Except it doesn't like that. Okay, well, yeah, I didn't dig into how Linnea is set up right now, but let's just put this in here as the default. And then if we go to this page, don't need that anymore. Then we can go ahead and add things to the cart once we select a variation. And you'll notice it updates right in the mini cart. I was adding other things earlier and apparently it saved the cookies. Got to clear those. This is a new AEM instance, which everyone saw. So I promise that was just cookie related. Or yeah, it's a cookie and cart for Magento because I didn't restart that. But anyway, that's kind of the gist of how to get it working. This is all the out of the box stuff. So Vanilla is nice and set up to just go right away. If you want to do your own, then you'll want to go from the AEM project archetype and make sure to set include commerce to yes, because otherwise it doesn't include the dependencies for you. And if you remember from the earlier slide that Chris was sharing, there's that list of dependencies that do have to be in the project for your Maven build to include the right commerce items. So any questions while we're here before we jump back to the slides? Okay, Chris, I'll hand it back to you then.
All right, thank you, Nicholas. Let me try to share my screen for the rest of our presentation here. If Zoom will cooperate with me. Do you guys see the demo slide?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. So one thing that we're going to share along with the presentation after we're finished here, we'll share this on the page. I added a couple great resources and tools, and I've got those saved in a browser tab, and I can walk you through those. But for GraphQL debugging, I've linked to a extension that I've used in the past for debugging and reviewing some of those queries, as well as a link to the Postman page referencing GraphQL. Those will be great tools in debugging all of your queries that you build for your cart or bringing in customer data. I've also added some debugging tools for React, as well as if anyone has dealt with React, breaking statements and adding the debugger statement will help kind of guide you along as you build new React components. And that's actually something that's on the docket for us to actually show you how to build new custom React components. So that's something that's been kind of on my mind, so we can utilize some of those, as well as some good Adobe resources that we've kind of used in the past. And for this presentation, kind of their introduction to commerce as a whole, as well as the project archetype that Nicholas was talking about, as well as the reference site for Project Vinia, and then the GitHub page for all the different SIF components, a list of all the different components that are included, as well as a developer guide for both Commerce in Classic and as a cloud service. And then also a great page if you're using something other than Adobe Commerce, if you're using, I believe, SAP and there's some other good links in there to be able to integrate with other commerce platforms. You can definitely do that. Takes a little extra work, but it can definitely be possible. So I've included some links there for anyone who's looking for some resources on some new information. And I will definitely share those. And let me see if I can share my screen again to show some of those resources. If it will, is it still sharing? Nope. Okay, here we go. Gotta love Zoom. This is the documentation page for querying using GraphQL using Postman. I'm sure some of you may have used Postman in the past. It's really powerful and can help save time in troubleshooting some of the queries that you're building. Same thing with reviewing some of your queries. Right now I'm using Firefox for fun here, but just a little screenshot of using the GraphQL debugger within Chrome, as well as the lovingly call it my favorite statement in JavaScript is the debugger statement when working with React components, being able to kind of pause where you are and kind of figure out what's going on in your code. As well as some of the documentation pages for content and commerce. The archetype page has a lot of great documentation on doing some of the same setup that we did today, as well as building your own project. The SIF guide for Vinia, which will help set things up on your own. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And then also some great videos on how to set this up yourself as well. So there's some great documentation there and kind of setting up integration with Commerce for yourself for the first time. So let me continue with our last bit of presentation here. Oh, looks like it went straight to the end. Let's see, come on. And let's see, sorry here. I'd like to, if anyone has a kind of doing the showcase. Of course it did. I'm so sorry.
I was wondering if you knew.
I kind of want to just open up the floor for anyone who has worked with Commerce. If there's anything cool they'd like to show off, or has any stories about things that they've built in the past, or any experiences that they've had, or even questions to Nicholas or Brett and I, just kind of keep the floor open for us. And wanted to appreciate you listening and coming along with us on this journey on learning a little bit more about Commerce. And there'll be more advanced topics in the future, but I hope everyone got a great deal out of it. And yeah, we just love to hear what anyone has to say.
Yeah, I'll break the silence here, I guess. This is Greg. I really appreciate you guys doing that. And a shout out to Brett for inviting us. I'm not an engineer, product owner. I'm a client, but I really appreciate the demo and showing us along all the configuration manager, different configurations of what could go wrong. This is really great. I was just curious, like in comparison with like third-party shopping carts with your clients, do you see Aem Commerce being preferred over third-party applications, or is it catching on, or how does that work so far? I know it's a very general question, but
I could feel this one just because I actually am in the BD space a lot more than Chris and Nicholas are. Certainly we've done a handful of AEM plus Commerce just because I think there's a natural affinity there. That said, the patterns, generally will work for other commerce engines as well. SIF was built in a way such that it can have connectors to other commerce engines, but the connectors that have been developed to date specifically for SIF, they thus far feel a little bit second, kind of second in line to the Adobe Commerce integration, which is far more robust. So if you're really looking to for surely use SIF directly out of the box, I still think your best bet is to be with Adobe Commerce. However, the one thing that's great about how they built SIF is not part of the platform. SIF is an open source library built on top of the platform. It's effectively implementation. And so because it's an open source implementation, provided you keep all the copyrights, the open source copyrights on it, you're free to do whatever you want with that code. So if nothing else, it serves as a great starting point for the code that you would want to use to then integrate with other systems. So for instance, on one of our clients, we've actually done similar implementation pattern, but to Digital River as their backend commerce, and it'll end up working. In fact, that project originally started on SIF, on I can't remember, I think it was actually on Adobe Commerce, and it was for like kind of a small POC, and then the organization decided they wanted to consolidate on Digital River. And so we migrated to Digital River, but we didn't have to completely rewrite everything, especially the front end. There's obviously some rewriting that had to happen, but with SIF, even if you like are starting to use some of the components and realize, hey, it's not doing exactly what I need it to do, you might have to go grab that code and pull it in, but it's not like you're completely starting from square one again. So I do think, there's definitely flexibility there to work with commerce engine of choice. So I would really kind of focus around picking the commerce engine that's going to serve the business needs. And if there's multiple that are kind of equivalent, then I think you give the nod to Adobe Commerce, just given that you're going to have the stack affinities, which, some of which are already there. And then, as always, Adobe continues to grow these tools closer and closer to each other.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Brett. It was really cool. I think that you can, if I remember well, in the beginning slides, you mentioned I think it was Nicholas mentioned using GraphQL to create new products. That was really cool. That you can grab you can create new products basically using GraphQL.
I know you can get products, Chris. I don't know if you can help clarify here. I don't know if you can use it to actually create a new product in Magento, hitting the GraphQL API. I haven't personally tried that, so that's the only reason I say that. But
yeah,
pretty quick Google search to verify.
Yeah, don't remember off the top of my head.
I've seen something
Yeah,
with Aem sites where you can grab GraphQL and create almost like how you use an experience fragment to create a block out of that. Similar case with GraphQL.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
allows you to grab the pieces that you want. And I think in terms of managing the products themselves, though, I think, at least in the Aem Magento integrations that we've done to date, largely that just gets taken care of still in the Magento tooling in their admin interfaces, just because a lot of that's locked behind logins and such. So even if it is available through GraphQL, not necessarily something that Aem is doing versus, it's more of an authenticated URL, whereas a lot of what we're getting for the product data and such is a little bit more public information because it's going to be shown on the public site.
And one cool thing that Greg, you might actually like this. One cool thing that Nicholas and I have done in the past, and that you mentioned experience fragments, is the React components are very portable in a way that we've taken things like header and footer and utilizing code splitting, split out those header and footers to work externally with those React components and other sites. So the React components themselves are very portable and really versatile in different ways if you have other partner sites or something where you need to host some of those components on. So there's a lot of really cool uses for them. Anyone else have any questions or any feedback? If not, I hope you all have a fantastic Friday and a great weekend. And yeah, definitely let us know what you'd like to hear from us in terms of new subjects. And we appreciate you coming and joining with us today and learning a little bit more about commerce.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
See ya.
Take care.